Yep, so that's a little milky. That means there's water intrusion, so we'll inspect all the seals and see what we got. Let's take off the prop and take a view at the prop shaft. We're gonna replace these seals because we did it to the other one. Plus, oh, look at that. Okay, now take a look at this. And look at that. See this? Look at that. It's all falling apart. It's supposed to hold together. We would have had a problem because if you look really close, look at this seal. Look at this. Look at this spring. This is the most common situation where people just don't go farther than they should. So water would get in here, and he would have been putting another 100 hours on a seal that has just been broken. So I'm gonna replace these seals. This is a perfect example of why you always want to replace the drive shaft seals. Yes, this is easy to change. This isn't so bad to change. So I'll start here with, since I have it on here, I'll clean it, get all this off. Even, you know what, listen, even if the seal was okay, you still want to do it because you want to make, it's a twin situation. You want to make them both equal, you know? That's how I see it. For the cost of how much these engines are valued, why skip out on $25 to $45 of seals? Why? I got a habit of starting at the same spot every time, so I'll just tap it gingerly. If it doesn't move, don't force it, but try to twist it just a touch. Sometimes you can get them out real easy with a couple flathead screwdrivers, but the best way to really do it, I think, is you just get a couple small wrenches, put one on this side and finagle the other one, and just go up the same time. You don't want to go, you want to do it exactly the same up. When you're going up, you want to pull it up both at the same side. So if you look really close, you can, well, all that water dribbled out. There's a little more water. There's some water there from the inside of the seal. So these seals are stacked. This is how I always remove it. Takes a little practice. I'll work the seal a couple times. So I got the top seal out. Now I'll get the bottom seal. Gingerly, and then I'll just wedge it out. So another important part of everything is you really have to clean this out. You have to get all this salt out. So I just scrape it, get that surface really clean, because if you don't get it clean and you put those other seals in, the new seals in, you'll damage them. So there really isn't a use of putting new seals in if you damage them, because then they're just going to leak. So there's a lot of corrosion, there's a lot of salt that sits here. And I'll clean out this little corner here, this little surface area here is for the oil seal cover. I'll even try to get the corners in here, get it really clean. I'll use the 656, always my go-to, and I'll spray it clean. Get those bearings cleaned. Make sure there's no salt in them. You know, prepping up the surface so we can put the new seals in. These are the seals. These seals will cover all the way through, almost just about every Yamaha from 115 to 300, these seals are the drive shaft seals. And this is the oil seal cover. There's two different types. There's a short one and there's a tall one. And little guys get the short ones. So another thing is too is that what goes bad in these seals, and it might even still hold, but don't forget they're stacked, so they're helping each other. Is that there's this? If you look really close, you could see the spring right in there. That spring is what's actually holding. And if you look really close, sometimes that spring gets so rusted, it loses its hold, and you know you'll see it broken and sitting in this little pocket. And here's the regular 24C. I'm a little generous with this. I get them all over. And you also want to get it down here too. Get it all in here. Give the seals a good chance of not breaking. I'll start the seals with my thumb, which is not bad. It's gonna look good. Sometimes you have to use a little hammer with the socket, which I'm gonna use the socket anyways to push it in. Just use this here. A glove. If you clean it right, it should go in just like this. If you have to force it, you might damage the seal, but you really want to make sure that, and sometimes, oh, it went in. I'm putting some force on that, but see how that just sat in there nicely? Now when I take it out and I look at it, it should be completely flat. You don't want this out around, you don't want this lopsided, you know, then it's defeating the purpose of a seal. It's got to be completely flat. So now that's done. Everything's all clean, no salt. I got grease all over this, even this O-ring here. Sometimes salt builds up in there, just give it a good generous bead of grease. Always pay attention how you take it apart. So this is the an orifice where the gear lube flows through. There's a worm gear on the shaft which pushes it up, goes through here, and then goes back down, just circulates. This is pretty important. You put it backwards, these aren't gonna line up, but it's gonna be a real pain in the butt to put in. So put it in the first time, you don't have to damage anything. So, and you can also see down here, there's a little rust from that water sitting there, but there's nothing you can do about it. But it's not so bad. So I'm gonna put this in here, and the secret to this one is the way you took it out, straight up, both sides, not wedged. Look, it's gonna go in real nice. Sometimes you have to finagle it, and what I usually do is I'll tap, literally just take the driver, push on one side, and tap it here, tap it there, but that went in pretty nice. So grease is pretty important to getting that put back in. All right, and here's our bolts here to hold that little bearing carrier. Got my grease. I'm always generous with. It isn't seated in quite yet, but as soon as we start to wrench down on these, since it's already to a point where it's already gonna seat. So, that's far enough in there. Awesome. Don't want to ever forget this. There's a lot of stuff to remember, but if you forget it, you're gonna have problems. So, I'm gonna put the oil seal cover on, and where I cleaned it, you actually see how it sits in there real nice. So when you put the water pump on and the cover, this little lip is going to press up underneath the plate, and that plate will hold this down and keep the water out, as much water as possible.